Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to have a look at this Coomber Pa Cassette Recorder. I know nothing about it. I don't know whether it works or anything. So, first thing I'm going to do, let's get some electricity. Right. As you would expect, cassette player doesn't work. However, it does appear that it has power, so that's a good thing. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll it onto the front and we'll take the back off and have a look inside. Just take them out. Okay. So inside we've got the cassette mechanism. Just turn the power onto it. Let's press play. Well, okay. It doesn't seem particularly healthy. Let's try. So the cassette deck on this is absolutely all over the shop. So that was my thought for this as to what was likely to be wrong with it, as I've had a couple of these and they've been the same. So I have a plan. The plan involves this little mp3 player with Bluetooth on it. So I'm going to take the cassette deck out. I'm going to put that in its place. This will actually make this something that you can actually use and make use of. Also, I'm going to show you how to deal with that as well. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is unplug it. Roll this over and have a look inside at what we've got. Now, we've got here, going to the cassette deck, a 12-volt supply, which we want. This supply light here, this one here, the blue one, brings the record light on. One of these is audio in, one of these is audio out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unsolder that. And I'm going to lift the ground up because it's the tightest. Blue, blue. Let's put that out of the way. Again, take the ground off. Now obviously there's an audio in and an audio out on this because it was a cassette recorder. Okay, so that's freed those up. I'm going to take the blue wire off because we don't want it. All that does is bring the record light on. Now we need to work out which one of these is audio in and which one's audio out. So it's quite an easy way of doing that. And that is this. We're going to turn it back around. We're going to plug it in. We're going to turn the volume up and we're going to go. Nothing happens. I would have expected. Oh, there we go, look. See off this one. So we know that that is the input. I'm going to unplug the power again. We're going to keep this one. I think I'm just going to put it under the cassette mech for a minute. We'll roll back over again. Because now we know that this cable here we don't want. Now we're going to cut off the grounds. Just tidy them away. And then we're going to go to these two pads here where they're soldered on. Just apply a bit of heat and have them away. So that leaves us now with a 12-volt supply and an audio. So when we're looking at the back of this, we have power connections. I think that's an audio input, but we're not going to use it. And this one is left and right out. So I'll plug into there, and I want to plug into there. So if we look at this, we can see that the red is right and the yellow is left. We're going to make the assumption that on here the red is right and the blue is left. So I'm going to join these up onto here and put some heat shrink sleeving on them and heat shrink them down. So we'll do that next. Let us attach part A to part B. I'm hoping that I can get away with just butt soldering these. We'll see. A bit of fresh solder on it. I'm just going to offer them up and just solder them together. Okay, that's made a nice joint. Do the same with this one. Bit of fresh solder on it just for extra, and just join them together. Okay. Now, before I go any further, I'm just going to make sure that we get power, and we do. Okay, so a couple of bits of heat shrink over there. I'll grab my heat shrink tool and we'll shrink them. Wonderful. So I'm looking at this, which is the signal path. We've got two nice small ones here, and I think I'm going to have to put a larger piece of heat shrink over it all to tidy up and keep the ground nice and safe. So let's do the two channels first, and then no, because if I solder the two channels on and then I want to put a bigger piece of heat shrink over there, I can't. It's going to have to go over the cable first. So I'm going to drop on my heat shrink for my channels, and then I'm going to grab a larger piece of heat shrink sleeving in a moment. Okay, there we go. Just put a bigger piece of heat shrink over there. So I'm going to join the red to the red and the blue to the yellow. I'm going to do the blue first because the blue wire's hanging around quite nicely for me. So with the yellow wire, I'm going to do the red. Okay, let's heat shrink them. Wonderful. We'll join that to there next. So that to stick out like that. Stick a bit of solder on there, and then hold the two pieces together and join them together. Right, I'm going to leave that bent back like that just to keep it safe, put this over here and I'll heat shrink that down now. Okay, so that's going to give us our audio input and our power. So what I'm going to do next, I'll stand this back up and we'll do a test with it. Offer this over here. Now it says we're on Bluetooth now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and try to tether to this and play some audio. So the cassette deck is held in by 4 screws here, and I'm going to start by removing those. I'm going to start and take this apart. Inside of these knobs are some small lug screws. I'll show you now, look. Okay, so you can see the lug screws there. They're what hold these in place. I've got myself a nice box here. I'm throwing the screws in. Okay, that releases the cassette deck. We'll continue to take the screws out to release the lid. Now the lid won't come free at the moment because of the audio amplifier. To release that, there's a couple more screws in the side here that go into a heatsink. We'll just pop them out. Okay, and I'll turn this back over. And we can all see inside again. So, we don't want the cassette deck anymore, but we do want to keep the amplifier. So we're going to just slide that forward. And then wiggle and jiggle the cassette deck out. As I say, I want to keep the cassette deck. I'm going to reuse it. So we can stand this back up. And this will allow us to get caught on some wiring. Which is the speaker wiring. Just going to release that from the bottom. Now we can get to the back of the potentiometers. See them there? These are the DC decoupling capacitors for the speakers. Because of the type of amplifier that it is, they're needed. And what I'm going to do is in each of these small holes here, I'm going to spray some WD-40. I'm then going to operate the potentiometers from one end to the other, and that should 9 out of 10 times get rid of the crackling. So what I'm going to do to get these potentiometers to clear up is I'm just going to go like that with a tiny little bit of WD, and then I'm just going to work them. And what you'll feel as you do it is they actually loosen up. So you're just going to work down them and do them all. Now the interesting thing is, as I'm doing this, it's actually freed up and you can actually feel the click in the potentiometer now. Next thing I'm going to do before I go any further is I'm just going to give it a quick clean. obviously once it's back in one piece, it's nigh on impossible yeah, a lot of difference just for a little bit of cleaner. Now the strange thing is with these, I always find it strange, is when you're facing the back like I am at the moment, the controls face you. Now we're going to make a piece of something to go inside here, but we do have some constraints as to how big we can go, because obviously we've got the metalwork here. And what we've got to do is we can't go much bigger than the cassette deck. So I'm going to find some material and be back with you. So as I've been working on this, I happen to notice I can see light through the speakers from inside. It turns out that the suspension around the speakers is absolutely shot. So I'm going to have to replace the speakers. So that'll be another job that we'll do in a minute. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut one wire off and unsolder the other. That way I know which way round they go to wire them back in. Having discovered that, I think I'm going to totally take this module out now. I'm going to disconnect the other speaker and I'm going to disconnect the transformer. So what I'm going to do is these two cables here that come from the transformer, I am just going to unsolder these. Now what, we don't need to take any notice of the polarity of them because they're AC. But what it will mean is we're able, once we disconnect the other loudspeaker, to take all of this out. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take the 4 screws out of here, disconnect the speaker wires and come back. The second speaker was in just as poor a condition. Okay, so now I've done that, this assembly here will come free other than this earthing terminal. So for the moment I'm going to cut the earth wire and put that out of the way. It will give us the opportunity to fully clean this. So now we're left with a input port and a transformer mounted. So I'm actually going to go, I'm going to take the transformer out and I'm going to take the input port off here, and I'm going to take the opportunity to give it all a good clean, and I might give it a bit of paint. So there we go. Having removed the transformer and the power input panel, we can see we've got the holes for the speakers, and I'm going to give that a good hoover out and then we'll start and build it back up. I'm going to go and find a pair of speakers that I can put in there and I'll be back with you. Okay. Right, so we have here 2 loudspeakers. These are actually 4 ohm loudspeakers, so we'll get a bit more out of the amplifier, but they are 20 watts. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mount these down, and then I'll come and speak to you again. I've screwed the one down, so I'm going to do the other one now for you. There we go. 2 replacement speakers back in, so I'm going to stand it up and hoover the dust out. Well, how about that? We appear to have become the hoovering channel. Going to offer this back in place and make sure that the speakers I put in don't foul with anything. And we're all good. We've got a gap down here still. So I'm now going to go back to making this panel here. So now I've got a suitable piece of plastic to go across here. I'm going to put 4 screws in it and then we can screw it in place. Now what I'm doing is using the original screws, and I'm sort of just going to screw into the plastic for now. Now I'm aware that I'm probably going to have to put some nuts and bolts in it, but for the purpose of aligning everything, this will work quite nicely. Having seen how well that's just gone in there, they might stay in. So I'm just using this to drill a hole. And I'm just popping the original cassette deck screws back in place. I think I am anyhow, and not some screws out of something else, which is probably actually what I'm using. But for the moment, they'll do the job. So now we've got a blanked off cassette deck, and I find myself asking myself a question. This has got to go in. Do I put it central or off to one side? I've decided, for no particular reason, I'm going to put it down the bottom. The thought behind it is if I want to put something else in it, I can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up with there. I'm going to make sure that's central, and I'm going to poke the 4 holes through. Then I can work out from that where to drill. So I think I'm going to put this in the top of here for now. It also means I get to check that my piece of plastic that I've made isn't fouling, when in fact it actually is. So I'm going to have a little look at that, and I'm going to have to trim that down a little bit. So we know by that we haven't broken it. I'm going to turn this back off and let's screw some more parts down. Okay. I don't know how that's going to go on. I don't think it's going to go on very well. I don't like this module. I'm not impressed by it. And I think it's going to cause problems permanently. But it's what I've got. Now, the final thing to do is put the back on. That was just held on by a couple of small screws. Like that. And oh yeah, volume control. So what I'm going to do is turn each of these all the way down to minimum. And we're going to put these knobs back on. So I'm going to go sort of line them up so they're pointing at minimum. Tighten them in. I've given them a little clean. What I'm just trying to do is just make them look so they're all point the same direction when they're on the minimum setting. And finally, this one here. And we'll give it a final listen test, and we'll turn it round as if we were with the students. So I've got it facing me. And there we go. Thank you for watching. I hope you've got some insight and ideas from this video as to what you could do with one of these yourself and how you could go about it. As I say, it has got an FM radio and it's got a line in here. It'll play off a flash card as well. And I've just noticed that this piece of plastic will come off here. That makes it look a little bit better. You know, I'm sure someone will make use of it. It'll make quite a cool little Bluetooth speaker for somebody if you want something retro. And thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video.